The third thing we believe in, and I think this is the most important one, is conservatives believe in wealth creation. You need to understand this in your bones. In your bones. If there is a limited pot of money, if wealth is a zero-sum game, that is true. Rich people are villains. Because the guy who has a Learjet has taken all of the resources from all these other people, and that's why they're poorer. If there's a limited pot of money, if there's a monopoly bank, right? And certain people are pulling lots and lots of hundreds and other people have less, then yes, then rich people, businessmen, are indeed villains, and yes, we need to redistribute this wealth because what right do they have to do that? But, if wealth can be generated out of thin air, if I take a $5 legal pad and a pen and write a screenplay or a book or a sonnet that sells for $1 million, I've created wealth out of thin air. And if wealth can't be generated out of thin air, why does LA look like it does now when 100 years ago it was 2 shacks and a donkey? Where did that wealth come from? Where did it come from? The richest people in the world 100 years ago at the time of the Civil War drove in ox carts. The government budget during the Civil War was $500 million. That's 1/2 of $1 billion. Today, we're spending $3,500 million. Where did that wealth come from? I'll tell you where it came from. It was created by hard work, by creativity, by people working longer and harder. Anytime that two people trade things, let's say that I'm a hunter-gatherer. Let's go keep it really simple. I'm a hunter-gatherer and I make spears, okay? And I am up there in the mountains and I see the gatherer tribes and they make baskets. Now, I don't make a lot of baskets, so my baskets look like an old bird's nest. The gatherers don't do a lot of hunting, so their spears are just wobbly little sticks, but my spears are absolutely accurate. They got steel spear points. They're fantastic. Now, one day, the gatherer tribe and the hunter tribe meet in the Midlands, and the hunter says, I will trade you one of my top-notch perfect spears for one of your remarkably good baskets that are woven so tight you can carry water in it. Now, they make the trade. They both go home. Who goes home richer?
Both.
Both. It's a miracle. It's a miracle. When you go to McDonald's and you give them $2.39 for the Happy Meal, they'd rather have the $2.39, you'd rather have the hamburger. You both go home wealthier. You do. Anytime you alphabetize a list, you are making a little bit of complexity in the world. You're increasing the complexity of the world. You're making the world richer. Every single free trade transaction that happens generates wealth. It makes wealth, not money, that's a different thing. You can print money. Wealth is generated out of thin air every single time it happens. The reason America is the richest country in the world is that for our entire history up until recently, this has been the easiest place in the world to create new ideas and to trade things to other people who want it more than you do. Right? Remember that spear maker example? If I made that spear, and I only need to wake up in the morning and make one spear for a day. Let's say I break a spear a day. And then I realize, oh, on the other hand, look, I got this incredible basket. All the chicks in the village are coming over to see my basket. I have an idea. Why don't I get up earlier and make 3 spears that day? And I'll stay up a little later and I'll make another 2. That way, when I go trade with the guy, I'll come back with all these baskets that nobody has. And I'm going to get all the women in the village, and I'll have a job employing my idiot son-in-law who can make the spears for me under my supervision. It generates extra work. So wealth creation actually happens now. If wealth can be created out of thin air, and it can, then that means the businessman is not the villain that you get in Hollywood movies. The businessman is the hero. The businessman is manufacturing wealth that wasn't there before. And if Bill Gates has $40 billion, it's because he's generated $400 billion of wealth that wasn't there until he walked on the face of the earth. Instead of taxing Bill Gates through the eyeballs, we ought to stand him in front of Congress and say, sir, here's a gold medal to thank you for the incredible volume of wealth you've created. You're never going to pay another dime in taxes as long as you live. Let's name a giant state after you or something. But instead we vilify businessmen because the left knows that wealth creation is the answer that kills communism. So we believe in wealth creation. That's number 3. Number 4, I got to move it up here because I know we're running out of time. Number 4, we believe in natural law. Now, you don't have to be a religious person. You don't have to believe in God to believe in natural law, but you do have to understand this. Many conservatives think that the Constitution grants us the right to freedom of speech, let's say in the First Amendment. The First Amendment does not grant you freedom of speech. The founders were very clear on this. The founders said that the right to free speech is inherent in you at birth. God gave you the right to free speech. God and nature made you free. All the First Amendment says is that the government shall not have the right to take that away from you. That's called natural law. There's never been another country in the world that has ever had anything like this idea. Natural law says that you have these rights built into you and no one can take them, which means that If Barack Obama and the government didn't give you these rights, then Barack Obama and the government cannot take these rights away from you. They're yours. God gave them to you. You're born with them. The idea of natural law is critically important to maintaining a free society, and we need to understand that these rights that we hold precious are not the gift of the government. We have a document called the Constitution that legally limits the government from taking those rights away. They're doing it all over the place. Who should stop them? Should we set up a committee? No, the founders said that the best protection against our freedoms being lost is the people understanding their Constitution, which is why there's a Tea Party, which is why when they asked Nancy Pelosi, what gives you the constitutional authority to authorize this Obamacare thing, she says, you're not serious, are you? This is a direct quote. They asked her, where's your constitutional authority to make Americans buy $3,000 worth of health insurance? You can't be serious, right? You're not serious? I am serious, actually, yes. I'm deadly serious. We have to hold them accountable. The Constitution protects our inviolate rights. That's why we're here. Number 5, we believe in legal immigration. Okay, legal immigration. We're all descendants from immigrants here. We have nothing against legal immigration, but we know that by having open borders, we are spitting in the eye of those honest, decent Americans who've stood in line for 6 years all around the world, who've paid their money and paid their dues and done the test and sworn oath to be honest American citizens. We are spitting in their eye by allowing 20 million, 30 million people to just walk into this country. It is an insult. It's a mortal insult to those Americans who weren't born in America, who've given their lives and their fortunes to come here. Those are the people that we're protecting by making immigration legal. No one I know, I've never met a single person in a Tea Party event ever who has been anti-immigrant. I only know people who are anti-illegal immigration, mostly because it is an affront against the people who want to come into this country legally, and if your first action of becoming an American is to break the law, well, what does that say? The reason you're leaving places like Mexico and Egypt and Venezuela and all these other places is because they're lawless and chaotic. If your first act coming to a free, legal country is to break the law, now there's something wrong with that. So we believe in legal immigration. That's number 5. Number 6, we believe in gun rights. We believe in gun rights because we know that without the Second Amendment, there wouldn't be any of the other 27. It's just that simple. People say, you can believe about gun, you don't have to own a gun. You don't have to go out and train in weapons. But I'll tell you this, the founders understood that men are corruptible. All people are corrupted by power. The gun rights are there, not to protect us against the British, although the British haven't invaded this country since 1812. And they're not there to protect us even against home invasion. The main reason we have the right to the Second Amendment is to protect us against our government. And every time you look at a people who've been massacred in history, is because they are unable to resist the tyranny of people with guns. So the founders said that when we get down to push comes to shove, we're going to make sure that the pushing and the shoving is done by individual citizens. You can own a gun or not own a gun, that's not up to you. Rather, it is up to you. But you have that right to defend yourself against the government. And the last thing we believe of the 7, and this to me is the one closest to my heart, we believe in American exceptionalism. We believe it's an exceptional country for any number of reasons. And there are a number of metrics to believe this. Militarily, there has never been a country in the history of the world that has even approached the degree of military prowess that the United States has. After World War II, we had fleets of B-29 bombers. You know how many aircraft carriers the United States had at the end of World War II in 1945? We had 32 aircraft carriers. And we could have put the American flag in every capital around the world, and nobody could have stopped us. No one. What do? We came back home, we put blades through the wings of those bombers, we scrapped those aircraft carriers, and we sent billions of 1946 dollars to our adversaries and helped them up. There's never been a country in the history of the world that's done that, ever. So militarily, we are far away the most powerful nation in the world. Economically, the United States, even today, with about 1/3 of China's population, produces 4 times their GNP. Why? Because we're free, creative people, that's why. We're not robot slaves manufacturing things under the boot of somebody else. We're free people. And to the degree that China and India are rising, they're rising because they're copying the things that made us successful. Scientifically, the United States leads the world. Did you know that in terms of scientific citations, these are little units of science and research papers, America produces more science than the next 6 countries combined. All of the new companies in the world, the new scientific breakthroughs, are done through American corporations. Clocks, let's say, bells, all of these things are manufactured here in America. And finally, in terms of American exceptionalism, is culturally. Did you know that the top 100 movies worldwide, every single one of them is an American studio, and every single one of the top 100 movies worldwide, that top 100 is from an American studio, it's spoken in English. No one has ever dominated the world militarily, culturally, economically, and scientifically the way the United States does. We're an exceptional country because of the other 6 things that we believe. So, that's what we believe. They're out there on my DVD. I'd love to have you come over and buy one from me and I'll sign it for you. But that's not why I did it. I did it because these ideas made this country great. I didn't invent these ideas. I'm not trying to sell you ideas that haven't worked before. We all know that these ideas work. This is why we're here. The Tea Party movement is the last best hope of the last best hope of the world. If this civilization falls, as all of the civilizations have fallen, all the oil is gone, all the metals are gone, all of the easily attainable coal is gone. If civilization falls, it will not come back. There'll be dark ages for the end of time. There will, as Orwell said, the future of humanity will be a boot on somebody's face, forever, without end. And the kind of world that these leftists want for you is an America where everything that is not mandatory is forbidden. That's what they want, because of their need for power, because of this disease that they have. So we have to fight them. And this is what I'll close on here with. I'll just close with this. This is an interesting analogy. I've never really quite gotten over it. Most of you know about the history of the Titanic, and most of you know that the Titanic sank on the morning of April 15th, 1912, went down in about 2 hours. Now, not many people know that if the lookouts in the crow's nest had seen that iceberg 5 seconds earlier, 5 seconds, that ship would have missed the iceberg and she would have come home. And she deserved to come home. Titanic was the culmination of everything that we admire. Wealth, engineering, inventiveness, genius, vision, hard work. The Titanic was built. Everybody talks about the Astors and the rich people, but the economic model behind the Titanic was to bring immigrants to America. That's where the Titanic was going to make its money, bringing people in steerage to America. That ship was designed to bring people to freedom. That ship deserved to come home. Now, almost nobody knows this. 5 seconds earlier, they would have missed the iceberg, but if those people in the crow's nest had seen the iceberg 5 seconds later, Titanic would have come home. It's true. Titanic was designed to float with the front 5 compartments flooded. It could take all of the front 5 compartments flooded and stay afloat. If they had seen that iceberg 5 seconds later, they would have rammed it head on. They would have gone right into it. Now, the bow would have been crushed in, and maybe 100, 200 people might have died in the collision. But that ship would have stayed afloat, and she would have come home. We are in a similar situation right now with our country. We no longer have the option to steer around this socialism, this power grab, this control over people's lives, this attempt to take all of this wealth and genius and freedom and turn it into every other thing in the world that's always failed in the past. It's too late for that now. The clock is tolling. It's too late. We've missed that opportunity. What's happening now, what's happening at this moment, is that socialism and the Frankfurt School and all of these things are doing to America what that iceberg did to the Titanic. They're coming right down the side of the ship of state. They're caving in entertainment. They're caving in media. They're caving in the news. They're caving in late night talk. They're caving in high schools, colleges. They're caving in everything. Every part of our society is being bashed in by these ideas that are mostly invisible beneath the surface, beneath the visible side. So we no longer have the chance to steer away from this iceberg. We've only got one chance left now. And our chance left, the only chance to save this country, is for us to aim right smack for the center of that iceberg, put in all the power we have, and split that son of a bitch right in two. That's all there's left to do. Because I know something about that iceberg that you may not know. That iceberg is hollow. It's hollow. This giant iceberg of socialism is hollow. What do I mean by that? How many veterans do we have here tonight? Anybody raise your hand? Or family of a veteran? Okay. People like you are ready to give your lives for freedom. You're ready to give your lives for freedom. And we come from 250 years of people who've given their lives on Bunker Hill and Missionary Ridge and Mount Suribachi and shores of Normandy and Da Nang and Baghdad. Bill Maher is not going to die for anything. He's not going to die for anything. If the hordes come over the hill, Bill Maher is going to be the first guy trying to speak Arabic to these guys and tell them he had nothing to do with it. Michael Moore's not going to die for anything. Janine Garofalo won't die for anything. None of these people are ready to die for what they believe in. But people will die for freedom. They will. They'll die for